Capitalismo, ahorro y trabajo duro, no hay otra cosa.
Because I'm trying to convince people who have spent their entire, well, youth anyway, in an institution funded by the government whose job it is to make them into conformists. I find it, there's a certain irony in what happens at your high school graduation when you always get that speech about you got to follow your dreams. You can accomplish anything. But yet, the whole 12 years you've been in that school, they've been teaching you the exact opposite. You can't do anything. Only the government makes possible civilized life, and only the government makes it possible for you to survive and earn a living, and only the government makes it possible for you to work in decent conditions, and only the government makes the arts possible, only the government makes the sciences possible. Government, 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 government. But hey, you can do anything you want.
Estamos acostumbrados a entender la pobreza al revés.
Why are people poor in 1700? Is it because the rich people are wickedly depriving the poor of all the flat-screen TVs in the year 1700?
De que el mundo sea rico y la pobreza sea una casualidad. La población humana vivió miles de años en situación de extrema pobreza. Y eran pobres Inglaterra, era pobre Suiza, eran pobre Francia.
And so we are sort of, I don't know, propagandized into thinking that all the good things in the world come from some guy being in charge and telling everybody else what to do. That's why I think some people accepted the idea that central economic planning was a good idea. Because it seemed to them, wouldn't it be better and more efficient for there to be some guy barking out orders to everybody instead of everybody just doing whatever he wants? That sounds chaotic and disorderly. We can't have that. There are miracles that go on every single day in this world that occur simply because individuals are active. There was nobody in charge of the English language. The word for this is tree. Everybody got that? It's going to be tree from now on. That didn't happen. So where does English come from? It comes from just spontaneous interaction of people. There is no czar or commissar or planner of the English language, and yet there it is. But you could imagine, you could just imagine people today thinking that there must have been some English language commissar who developed the language. So Milton Friedman holds up this pencil and he says, look, I got a freaking pencil over here. You look at the things in this pencil and you realize there's no person on earth who could produce this pencil. And you're skeptical of that. You think, oh, I know Joe works at the pencil factory. He could make a pencil. But when you think about it, it's actually quite difficult. The pencil begins with a tree. You've got to chop down the tree. What are you going to chop down the tree with? Well, you're going to need an axe, or you need a saw. What's the saw going to be made out of? It's made out of steel, and for steel you need iron ore, and then you need transportation to transport the steel from one place to another. The transportation requires gasoline, which requires oil refinery. All these different things that you would need to be an expert in to create a pencil, no human brain could possibly contain. So there are all, and that's not to mention the rubber for the eraser, the graphite, which comes from South America, all these different things coming together to produce an object that costs you a few cents? Now, could you imagine, before we had pencils, describing to people, all right, here's what we need to do. All right, first we got to go to this continent, then that continent, then we got to get the graphite, we got to chop down the tree, we got to produce paint, requires all these ingredients and all these processes. Then we got to shave down the wood to make it all nice and smooth. People would say, my gosh, this device is going to cost like $1 billion. And we're going to need some pencil commissar in charge of this thing.
En el siglo XVIII y XIX, en algunos países, sobre todo en Inglaterra, Francia, Estados Unidos, se empieza a ver capitalismo. Capitalismo quiere decir producción con capital. Lo que diferencia a un país rico de un país pobre es básicamente la dotación de capital por cápita. ¿Qué diferencia a un campesino suizo de un campesino, por ejemplo, Banja Mulenge, de las montañas Mulenge del Congo, que son de las zonas más pobres de la tierra? ¿Qué es lo que lo diferencia? ¿Por qué en Suiza no hay pobreza y en el Congo sí? Porque en Suiza el trabajador suizo trabaja con tractor, Massey Ferguson de 500 caballos. Es decir, su fuerza de trabajo, sus músculos se multiplican por 1000 o por 10.000 y en un día hace el trabajo de 200 hombres de antes. Por tanto, produce trigo por como 200 veces lo que se producía antes. El trabajador Mulenge, de las montañas Mulenge, sigue trabajando como se trabajó siempre, o sea, de una forma no capitalista, no capitalizada. Se trabaja con un buey flaco, con las manos o con un arado de madera. Por tanto, su productividad es 100 veces menor.
In fact, there was one time I had a sick child. She needed a vaporizer in the middle of the night. So in the middle of the night, I go to the store, I buy her a vaporizer for $10. And I actually, this is not a joke, I stood there in the store and I marveled at the fact that I just bought a vaporizer for my sick kid in the middle of the night for $10. It's only when you get the market economy, it's so fantastic as a wealth creator that you realize, wait a minute, people don't have to live like savages anymore. So of course they're going to be poor. It's not that the rich have taken all the stuff from them. If you redistributed everything the rich person had in 1700 and gave it to everybody else would wind up with an extra 2 cents, and then that would be it. That rich person would move out of the country before this could be done to him again. That'd be it. Congratulations. The only way you can improve things is by letting the market function, let profits be reinvested, and build that machinery so that we become more productive. Goods become more abundant and their prices come down relative to wages. That is the only way we can become better off. If we went over to Bangladesh today and said, you people have to work in terrible conditions, so today we're going to impose the U.S. Federal Register of Regulations upon the whole country, would that mean that the next day everyone would be working in a wonderful air-conditioned office building? No, it would mean the next day everybody's unemployed. No one could afford that in Bangladesh. We're led to believe that the poor are poor because the rich took all their stuff. Or the poor get poorer, the rich get richer. This can't possibly be. The poor, at some point you hit subsistence level. If you get any poor, I mean, the phrase doesn't even make. In fact, in the Soviet Union, it was a crime, it was a felony to drop a lit cigarette into the Volga River because it was a fire hazard. A river was a fire hazard. And there's that great article, Law, Property Rights, and Air Pollution, where Murray Rothbard lays out exactly how that would be dealt with in a free society. So, first of all, it's a caricature to think that, well, we libertarians, we love pollution. Like, yeah, that's how we know that industry is really cranking things out. Like, if I'm not coughing, it's not capitalist. That's not. But also, property rights are what make possible the care of the environment. And that's what you libertarians want. You love corporations, man. Well, okay, for one thing, if we love corporations so much, how come they don't donate to us? There are some corporations that would rather see the whole world burn to the ground than have a free market. But when you actually look at it, it's true. You have some really predatory entrepreneurs who are using their political connections to get them special benefits. So there's, of course, we talk about Andrew Carnegie. Single-handedly, the guy reduces the price of steel rails in a quarter century from $160 a ton to $17 a ton. I'm supposed to hate that guy? Now, Rockefeller, okay, you can talk about the things his foundation did, whatever. That's a separate question. I'm talking about as an entrepreneur. I mean, this is a guy who takes the price of kerosene and drops it from $1 to 10 cents. Now, the government can't ever do anything like this. This improves everybody's standard of living, because now everything that uses that as an input gets cheaper. Everything that uses steel as an input gets cheaper. People's standard of living rises across the board. All the government can do is take stuff from some people and give it to you. All they can do is tax this wonderful process by which all of us working together improve our living conditions.
Capitalismo, ahorro y trabajo duro. No hay otra cosa.